Hi, this is Kabir Khan and you're watching me on AVS TV.
The director of such Bollywood blockbusters as Ekta Tiger and Bajrangi Bhaijaan now takes a crack at his first web series. Kabir Khan is the creative force behind The Forgotten Army, a series based on his 1999 documentary of the same name. It's a project 20 years in the making that tells the true story of Indian soldiers who marched towards India's capital to free their country from British rule.
This project, it's like your baby. You wrote it, created it, directed web series for the first time, so a lot of these firsts. I'm curious, to start from the beginning, what made you want to tell the story of the Forgotten Army? How did this all happen?
So, to answer that question, this is the story that made me want to become a filmmaker. And I guess it's because of the way this story came to me. I was fresh out of film school. I think I was 25 years old at that point in time. And I got an opportunity of making a documentary which also was titled The Forgotten Army. But in this documentary, I got the privilege of taking two survivors of this army, two veterans of this army, Captain Lakshmi Sehgal, who was the commander of the women's regiment, Rani Jhansi regiment, and then Gurbakh Singh Dhillon, who was another very senior officer of this army. I took them back, and then for 3 months we drove from Singapore through Malaysia and Burma back to India, retracing for the first time since World War II the route that this army had taken. So in a sense, I experienced and saw the history of this army through the eyes of the real soldiers, the soldiers who actually made that history. That had a deep impact on me. And therefore, even after having made the documentary, which got me a lot of attention and acclaim, and in a certain sense I always say that was probably the starting point of my career, this story refused to leave me, and that burning desire to one day tell this story at a wider scale, at a bigger level, is what just made that story stay with me. And after every film I would say, okay, it's going to be Forgotten Army, and then I would make another film that's Forgotten Army, Forgotten Army, Forgotten Army. So it's like an obsession. And today when it's started finding out, it's really like a dream, an obsession fulfilled.
There must at this stage be no thought of sparing the troops or saving the population. The battle must be fought to the bitter end. The honor of the British Empire and of the British Army is at stake.
And now I'm sure after this, especially after the documentary, many more eyes, it'll be much more well known, which is amazing.
Yes, that's the purpose of making a film, I guess, a series, for a global platform like Amazon. It's going to be launched simultaneously in 200 countries. I think, especially for the Indians all over the world, it's going to be a very emotional and evocative story. And even for people, who are not Indians, it's an incredible untold story of world history. But again, to stress that for Indians, it's one of those chapters of history that should have been told to us, but was never told to us.
So let's talk about the cast. What made Sunny, Sharvari, even the supporting cast, right for this project?
I guess, as a filmmaker, when we're writing characters, and since I write my own films, there's always, while writing it, there's a image you form of the character in mind. In this case, especially because we were not really going the star route and taking, film stars, so there were no preconceived notions about how that person is going to be looking. I just had an image. I had an image for Captain Sodi, for Maya, for the other characters, and we did a huge round of auditions. My casting director, auditioned hundreds of potential actors, and it's from that pool that finally it kept whittling down, and we came to Sunny and Sharvari.
आजाद हिंद फौज में भर्ती होने के लिए किसी जाति, किसी नस्ल, लड़ाकू, जनाना, मर्दाना बकवास की कोई जरूरत नहीं। जरूरत है कि वो एक हिंदुस्तानी है और अपने मुल्क के लिए लड़ने के लिए पूरी तरह से तैयार है। माया,
Captain Sodi.
This scale, even just the trailer, the look, everything about this is so epic, like so real looking. So was that challenging for you?
It was challenging and satisfying. It was something that we wanted to achieve, and I'm really happy that we achieved, because I think today's audience is a very discerning audience, and when you're making a series, that I keep using the word film because for me they're actually interchangeable. It's something that is a true story set in reality, you need to make sure that there's attention to detail. You need to make sure things look authentic, genuine. Audiences appreciate that. Today's audience wants to see something. They want to see the uniforms and say, this does look like a World War II uniform. You know, the uniform does look like this person has been through, 10 days of battle. And that is what was a challenge for my entire team. And a lot of effort went into it, just sourcing weapons from World War II. The Japanese used a specific rifle called the Arisaka. And where do you get those, right? There was a collector in New Zealand who had them. So we had to ship down 200 Arisakas from New Zealand. We had to manufacture Lee Enfields for the British Indian Army. We had to, my costume stylist, she had to make over 2,000 uniforms in different stages of aging. The helmets don't exist anymore, the shape, they had to be fabricated. 300 cycles had to be made of the 1940s vintage for certain scenes. So it goes on and on. We had to recreate 1942 Singapore. Singapore of 1942 is a grand city, none of which exists. So you had to, through a lot of course, massive sets and new technologies that allow you to sort of reproject those cities on top of the sets that we made. So I must say, and this is totally all credit to Amazon also for the support they gave me. A series with no stars, but with the kind of budget the kind of money that was spent on this series, they stood by me like a rock and made sure that my vision was exactly the way I'd narrated it to them.
जिसका नमक खाया है उसे तुम लोग गद्दारी खा रहा है bastards!
मुझे ये याद नहीं कि मैं इंग्लैंड कब आया था तुम्हारा नमक खाने, लेकिन इतना अच्छी तरह से मालूम है कि पिछले 200 साल से हिंदुस्तान में रहकर तुम हमारा नमक जरूर खा रहे हो. It's time for you to go back home, Major, and leave mine.
So now I have to ask you, what can you tell us about your upcoming film 83? What was that process like?
83 is again, like Forgotten Army, probably one of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard. It's a true story, but when I heard it, and I like to tell you that I'm actually not a big cricket buff. I'm not one of those guys who will sit for 5 days watching a test match. I won't, I get impatient. But for me, it was the human story that pulled me in. And I said, because I'm not such a crazy cricket buff, I'm the best person to read this story, because I'll never get swayed by the cricket. For me, I'll see, is the human story there or not? And I read the material and I had a lump in my throat. And I said, this is a story worth telling.